Good evening. My name is Barnett. Order the February 18, 2021 public meeting of the board, including the public hearings that the board will conduct. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Orders of March 12, 2020 and November 2, 2020, that suspend certain provisions of the open meeting law and impose limits on the number of individuals that may gather indoors, we are conducting this meeting virtually by Zoom. Public comments this evening will be accepted during the public hearing. To offer comments by Zoom, you will be asked to use the button in Zoom that is labeled Raise Hand. This will alert us that you wish to speak. We will individually bring you into the meeting. If you are planning to speak tonight, you may want to take a moment to find the Zoom button, make sure that you are in a quiet space, and have a working microphone. Also, please be sure that your Zoom window includes your name. If you are participating by phone, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. If you will not be speaking tonight, we recommend and request that you not use Zoom, but instead watch this meeting on Foxboro Cable Access, by cable television, their YouTube channel, or Facebook Live. In the event of any technical difficulties, matters on our agenda that cannot be considered automatically will be continued to the board's next meeting. That meeting is currently scheduled for March 18, 2021. All votes that we take tonight will be done by roll call. At this time, I wish to recognize the other members of the board: David Brown, Kimberly Mellon, Kurt Yegian, and Lorraine Brew. Mr. Brown, Ms. Mellon, and I are regular members of the board. Mr. Yegian and Ms. Brew are associate members. All members will participate in the matters that we are to consider this evening. However, only the 3 regular members are authorized to vote during tonight's scheduled public hearings, unless a regular member recuses himself or herself. In that event, an associate member will be authorized to vote in such regular member's stead. A unanimous vote of the voting members is required in order to approve the matters that are the subject of a public hearing. Finally, I wish to recognize Diana Gray, the board's administrative assistant, and Barry Ringler, the Town of Foxborough Building Commissioner and Zoning Enforcement Officer. So the time being 7:00 p.m., Jeffrey Vito seeks a special permit pursuant to sections 4.2.5 and 5.4.2 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, Chapter 275 zoning, to allow the construction of an attached 2-car garage addition with a front yard setback of 16.3 feet, where 35 feet is required. The property, located at 5 Harlow Road, is in the R40 Residential and Agricultural District and is not located in any restrictive overlay district. Mr. Vito, I see that you're here.
I am, yes.
Okay. Before I turn the floor, so to speak, to you, I just want to make a clarifying point. When you initially applied for a special permit, you applied for that permit under section 5.2 of the zoning bylaw. And that application was based on the fact that Tom Wren, in denying the initial building permit, stated that you must go to the board to get a special permit under section 5.2. Though he correctly stated that a special permit was required from the board, he incorrectly cited the zoning bylaw provision that was applicable. Section 5.2 deals with non-conforming uses. A non-conforming use is a use that's not permitted by the zoning bylaw. A garage is a conforming use. It's a permissible use. However, because your house currently is within the front yard setback, and because the garage, when it's added to the house, would exacerbate or intensify that setback, what we're dealing with is a non-conforming structure. In other words, a structure that doesn't comply with the dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw. Now, for us to approve your application, we will need to determine that your house with an attached garage that has a front yard setback of 16.3 feet is not substantially more detrimental to your neighborhood than is the existing non-conforming house. Do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
Okay, that being the case, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us what you're planning, and we'll probably have some questions for you.
Okay, great. So we're planning on building a two-car garage, more for our personal use and necessity. So the two-car garage, when you talk about that footage of 16 feet and 25 feet, I just wanted to be clear that we're clear that that's to the sidewalk. I know the law says to the street, but there's another 10 feet from that to the actual street. So if the measurements of 25.9 on one side to the 16 feet, the middle range there is like 21 feet plus the 10 feet is 31 feet. So we find that there is enough room there. I also took some Google Earth pictures of my house that I submitted with it, so you could see where the garage is going on the side of the house. And there's some cars actually parked in the driveway with the sidewalk there. We also had spoken to all our neighbors, not just the abutting neighbors, and we submitted a list of our entire neighborhood after showing the plans to our neighbors on what we wanted to do to the property and how it would look on the property. And they were all in agreement and willing to sign that piece of paper. That's my entire neighborhood, the 30 houses that are in here. We did take into consideration when building this garage, when I said it was out of necessity, we have my father-in-law is planning on moving in with us. He is slightly disabled right now with a dropped foot. We see him not in the near future. He will not be able to be using his cane. It'll be a wheelchair. So we had to build the garage or design the garage a little oversized so we could plan on putting a handicap ramp in coming down the side so we could actually fit it in.
So just to clarify, the garage will be attached to the house.
Yes, it will be attached to the house, and it'll be parallel where it says 25 feet. It's coming straight off of that.
Okay. And the plans that you submitted with the application, that's the plans that you're intending to use when you construct the garage?
Yes, sir.
And will the driveway be widened then to accommodate access to the garage?
Yes, the driveway is going to be 3 car lengths wide and run along the garage.
Okay. Anyone else have a question or questions?
I do have a quick question. This is Kim. So I see in the pictures and when I drove by, it appears as if there's 2 driveways right now. Is your intention, if this is approved, to keep both of those driveways? And you said there would be
no, those driveways would be gone. The driveway would be just the 2-car garage and enough of a passageway to run along the side of the garage.
So both existing driveways would no longer be there.
Correct.
And so somewhat where in.
Do you see the patch of grass in between the 2 driveways?
Yes.
That'd be the new driveway.
Okay, thank you.
In essence, the garage will be where the fence is, correct?
Yes, the fence is a little tilted. So the fence would actually put it at 25 feet. So if you turn that fence just a little bit, that's where we're off there.
Mm-hmm. So to follow up on Kim's questions, the 2 existing driveways, you planning to tear them up and grass that in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dave, any questions?
Just as on the plans, I believe right on the plans that we gave you from the architect has the driveway too.
Bonnie, can we get the plan up on the screen here?
Yep. Diana?
She's on mute. There we go. Okay.
let me unmute. So you want, what do you want to look at, Dave? You want the Google thing?
Well,
The
I'm looking
architect
at the, what do we call it? The footprint. Oh, and there's the picture with the pool and all that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just refreshed my memory. I drove by it a couple of weeks ago, actually.
There's an architect plan in there that should show you a drawing of the house.
Let's see, I gotta make it smaller. Probably this one?
Well,
No,
it
there's
looks like
some
the back.
concept drawings that are actually 3D. That's the back of the house.
This one? That would be the front. Mhm.
Yeah, that's the front. That's what it would look like. So the garage would just be right where the driveway would be just in front of the two garages with a walkway along the side.
So how large is this structure?
It is 30 by 30.
So it's 30 deep and 30, and the 30 across, you just have the two garage doors? So that section there
so-
that shows like the new back door, I guess, and a little bit more of that, that's new, that's part of the addition, am I right?
Yes, where
Oh,
that
I see,
door
oh, no,
is
you
part of
marked
the
it, yeah, I
garage.
got it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to figure out. Okay,
We want to be able to go in that garage door, that door beside the garage doors, and have a wheelchair ramp go up into the house there.
okay, yeah.
And that's
think
what it's extending it. Usually it's 24 by 24, so we
Right,
extended enough so we could get the ramp in there.
okay.
You know, we just want to be able to take him to, you know, to his office visits, doctor's visits and stuff
Yeah,
in a safe and manner way, you know?
I understand. I put an addition on my house a year or so ago, and I set some things up with the idea that hopefully, you know, if we end up on a wheelchair, we're ready to go, you know?
Kurt, any
Okay, I've got
questions?
nothing else.
Okay, Kurt, any questions? Kurt's on mute.
All right, I think I'm off now.
Yeah.
So yeah, my only question is the usual stuff. Assuming that this goes forward, the garage would be, keeping in context with the house as far as materials, colors, and the rest of the neighborhood, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. And one question I have is, if a new driveway is being put in, what has to happen or who has to get involved in order to get that curb cut or the curb removed in that space?
I would assume my excavator, the guy putting the driveway in, is going to do that. So where the new driveway is going, we could take the curb that's there and put it where the old driveways were.
Right, I understand that. Yeah, I'm thinking that sometimes the town needs to get involved because it's their curb. I don't know what approvals, if any, are needed to do that.
Okay,
And
I'm willing to
Barry-
pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to pay for that. Yes.
Barry,
Yes,
is that something that comes under your jurisdiction or the highway department?
yeah, that's us plus highway, the engineering for the street.
Uh-huh. So when you would issue a building permit, would you require something of that nature, or how would you deal with that at that point?
Yeah, we want to see how wide it is to meet the width of the bylaw. It can only be so wide, and then again, DPW would look at it to see about if there's any hydrants there or if there's town trees or anything there that not to be disturbed or cause a problem, then how close it is to intersections. But in this case, there's nothing in the way. I don't remember the size of the driveway. What's the width of the driveway?
24 feet.
Okay, yeah, so 24 feet works. That's the max. And then it's 26 at the curb itself in the street. So that would be fine as far as compliant with zoning. That would be the zoning aspect for us. From there, Chris Gallagher and company at DPW would be in the engineering department, would be looking at it for curb cut approval, because it's a town-owned, the curb is town-owned.
So would the town also require, where the current driveways are, would they require a new curb to be put in?
I would think so. That's more their, requirements. The building department doesn't get involved in that requirement.
Okay. Kurt, anything else?
No, that's all I had. Thanks.
Okay, Lorraine?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks, Barney.
Okay, anybody else? Kim, Dave, all set?
Barney, I do have a couple more questions. So
Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
want to make sure that I'm understanding. You had said this was for personal use. So any intention of using this for commercial use?
No. When I say personal, just my wife and I to park our cars in there. A little, comfort from the weather and the elements that we have that we've been living here. We've lived in this house for 24 years now. Our family has grown here. We got married and we moved into this house. We want to stay in this house. When I say personal, it's just for us, nothing commercial.
Okay, thank you. And also, will you be is your intention to have running water in the garage?
No.
Okay, and what kind of electricity are you anticipating in the garage?
Just standard outlets, the two-door garage opening. That's about it, and lighting. Basic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does any member of the public wish to be heard? Okay, what I'm going to do is just read very quickly the, what do you call it, a petition or a letter that you submitted. And it says, "We as neighbors to Jeff and Laura Vito have seen the plans and drawings to a proposed two-car garage and agree that proposed garage fits into our neighborhood and does not infringe on any property or is too close to the street. We would welcome the addition to their house." I'm not going to try to read all the names. I have trouble reading some of the handwriting and it is kind of faint. But there were 30 individuals who reside in the neighborhood who signed the letter of petition, whatever we want to call it, who obviously are in favor of what you're proposing. So unless there are any other questions from the board members, why don't we have a motion and
I have one, Bonnie, I
Oh.
have one question.
Go ahead.
Did anybody decline to sign your petition?
No, they did not. There's 30
Oh.
houses in the neighborhood. All 30 signed it.
30 for 30. Okay, very good.
Want to have a motion to close public hearing?
I move we close the public hearing.
Second,
Dave Brown?
Okay, let me do a roll call. Dave Brown,
Yes.
Kim Ellen,
yes.
and Barney over it, yes. So let me start. As I mentioned at the beginning, what we have to determine is whether this is or is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood with the garage than the current house is. And I think the fact that you've got almost all of your neighborhood signing or all your neighborhood signing off on the petition indicates that it would not be substantially more detrimental. And obviously that would be an understatement because obviously it's shown to be welcomed by your neighbors. So other than the fact that I would have a handful of conditions to impose, I'm certainly in favor of the application. As the board may remember, a couple of years ago, we approved a similar application in the neighborhood. I think that was for 8 Hallowell, the Del Pizzos. So this would be the second application of this nature that we've considered within a 2-year period. Dave?
I don't have any problems with this. I think the problem with that neighborhood is the way all the roads kind of curve around, they don't really square off. So it's very hard to, place a house in a garage, within the setbacks. So I would, be inclined to approve this with normal conditions.
Okay. Kim?
I agree with both of you. This does not appear to be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Okay. Kurt?
He's on mute.
I would
There we go.
agree that it's not more detrimental to the neighborhood, and yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, Lorraine.
I also agree with that it's not more detrimental.
Okay, so why don't we talk about the conditions first? Actually, Barry, do you have any other questions or comments?
Nope.
Okay, why don't we talk about the conditions first, and then we can do a motion. So the first one that I would impose would be to state that the garage is a 1.5 story, two-car structure that's constructed in accordance with the dimensions that are set forth in the garage plans. Second, that the location of the garage would be as shown on the zoning plan, such that the front yard setback of the garage is not less than 16.3 feet at its closest point. And 3, that the external materials of the garage are to be comparable in type and color as that of the existing residential structure. Anything else?
I would say no business is to be conducted.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would also say something about the curb cut should be relocated to any highway department requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
When you talk about business, you're not referring to what they have allowed by right, non-intensive home occupation.
Right, yeah,
You're
no,
not referring to that.
yeah, not that, no, they can only, that's a good point, we have to word that in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So if they fit within the confines of the bylaw that does allow it by
Mhm.
right, that's okay. But something beyond that, like any other
Yep.
building that's looking for a business certificate, would have to follow the bylaws.
And that would be the non-intensive use, so that's in there,
Accessory use, correct.
right, yeah, we know that pretty well,
Right.
so.
Anything else?
Then we accept the motions.
Why don't you make the motion and Kim second it? With those
I would
conditions?
move that we grant the petition with the conditions that we have discussed included.
Okay, Kim second.
Second.
Okay, Dave Brown,
Yes,
Kim Ellen,
Yes.
and Barney Overett. Yes. So we've approved the application.
Thank you.
At some point within the next couple of weeks, we will sign it. Diana will file it with the town clerk. That will kick off a 20-day appeal period. When the appeal period runs, you'll need to file the decision with the Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, and then provide a copy of the of what you have filed with the Registry of Deeds to, which would be the decision, obviously, with Mr. Ringler. And that would be a condition for him to then act upon your building permit request. And
Okay.
if you have any questions in the interim, just give Mr. Ringler a call.
Okay. Great.
Okay? Thank you
Yes,
very much.
thank you very much to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We lose Frank? Frank's there. Okay, the time being 7:10 PM. Louis C. Sherman seeks a variance pursuant to section 4.1.1, table 4-1 of the Code of the Town of Foxborough, Massachusetts, chapter 275 zoning, to allow a side yard setback of 20 feet where 25 feet is required, and a modification to case number 89-27 to eliminate or modify condition number 1 to allow the footprint of an existing 4-family dwelling to be expanded with the addition of a 5th dwelling unit. The property, located at 41 Sherman Street, is in the R15 Residential and Agricultural District and is not located in any restrictive overlay district. Frank, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Attorney Francis Splain, with the applicant here, Lucas Sherman. We're here with property located at 4143 Sherman Street, which is within the R15 zoning district. The lot has 48,300 square feet of area with 133 feet of frontage. The existing building was built around 1945 and possibly earlier. And the current building has a front yard setback of 25.9 feet. And that is measured from the porch back. The side yard setback is 15.4 feet from one of the side yards. The building is a lawful four-family dwelling as approved by the ZBA case number 89-27. For that case, there was it was either a three or a two-family dwelling. In that case, it was determined that it was an existing two-family, and with the variances and finding that was approved there, it became a lawful four-family. In 1989, the two-family dwelling requirements were 25 front yard and 15 side yard. Back in '89, however, the side yard was measured at 11.4 feet. Again, the existing side yard is 15.4 feet. I've spoken with Bay Colony group, and they can't determine what that error was. But looking back through the past plans, both the zoning plan and the initial site plan that was approved by the selectmen had the 11.4 feet. But eventually they went for a special permit, which went in front of the planning board. And at that point, it was indicated by 15.4 feet. So they eventually did catch it. But Mr. Buckley couldn't recall the circumstances. They said it could have been a scrivener's error originally, but eventually they caught it with the special permit, and the eventual building as-built plan showed it as that. So again, under the, back then, the two-family was considered a pre-existing non-conforming structure because of what they thought was the side yard, which is 11.4 feet, where 15 feet was required. However, at the time, with a multifamily, both the side yard and the front yard requirements increased to 50 feet. So in order to be a multifamily, 3-4 unit, you need a 50-foot front yard and a 50-foot side yard back then. So even if it was a three-family back then, it would have been pre-existing non-conforming. But the ZBA at the time made the decision within that 89.27 case that it was previously a two-family. So in order to do a four-family, they needed zoning relief with regard to variances that were required. So in that decision, the variances were approved for front yard and side yard setbacks, as well as a 25-foot buffer strip, which was required back then. And they also made a finding that wasn't substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So with that, the four-family became a lawful four-family. It is not a pre-existing non-conforming structure because the variances make it a lawful structure. So it doesn't come down under the jurisdiction of a finding necessary with regard to a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And that's why we need variances instead of a finding in this case. Mr. Sherman wants to add on an additional unit, and he has enough area on the lot to put an additional dwelling unit to make it from a four-family again to a five-family. In order to do that, it's not considered a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but a lawful structure for variances. In order to do that, he has to get an additional variance because his side yard will be 20 feet, where the side yard requirement today is 25 feet. So again, back in '89, the side yard requirement was 50 feet, but now it's 25. So we need that variance in order to put this addition on. I think we filed some plans with you showing what is being proposed It's going to be a one-floor unit for his parents-in-law, at least initially, with a attached garage. The living area is approximately 2,100 square feet for the first floor. There may be a basement. They haven't decided whether they're going to do a basement or a slab. They're looking at where they're going to put the equipment and all that. But if there is going to be a basement, it'll be unfinished at this time. The garage area is approximately 294 square feet, as indicated on the plan. Again, the granted variances we need is under section 4.1.1, table 4-1, which requires a 25-foot side yard. We're proposing 20. In the case 89-27, the first condition states that the footprint of the existing house not be expanded. So in order to put this addition on, we have to have that modified or eliminated, whichever the board feels more comfortable with, would be an additional requirement in order to put this addition on. Again, we're just 5 feet short on the side yard. If you look at the plan that we've added, we've tried to line up the addition with the house, and that's how we get the 5 feet requested. We could push the, we could push the addition over 5 feet and get the 25 feet necessary. However, it would then not be in line with the existing house. Additionally, we'd have to change the driveway entrance and exit. And we would also be moving the parking area closer to the single family residence that's right next door. We want to try to keep the parking as far away from that residence as possible. So we thought the best thing to do would be align the house with the addition as best we could. And then I asked Mr. Sherman to work with his in-laws to see how narrow they can get the addition that they'd be comfortable with. And I think I gave you some plans. They're just draft plans right now, but you'll see that it's going to be a 2-bedroom with a kitchen and living area, and a craft room for his mother-in-law, I believe, for it. But they try to make it as narrow as possible, line it up with the existing house so that aesthetically it looks pleasing for themselves, for the neighborhood, for their neighbors and everyone else. Again, these types of units are in high demand now in Foxborough, and I think probably in a lot of areas in Massachusetts. A lot of elderly are looking for the 1-floor living space. Again, there won't be a second floor on it. So they can just walk right in there from their garage area and live on a 1-floor area. So this is in high demand within Foxborough. So even when his in-laws eventually do move out, he would have a unit that would be in demand in Foxborough so that people can stay in Foxborough. Looking at the lot, you can see it's an odd shaped lot, kind of a backwards L, depending on how you look at it. There is a 2 drainage easements at the back of the lot, which allows drainage from that area to flow down. Currently, it's ditch-like, but there is concern that there may be some piping down there that nobody knows about because the drainage easements goes back, I believe, to the early 1900s. It abuts the railroad track that's right behind it. And on the other side of the railroad tracks is commercial development. So behind them, there is no residential at this time. So the as in the 89 case, the lot shape as well as the location of the building on the lot really dictates the necessity for this variance in keeping with the building in front of it and keeping it aesthetically pleasing with it. The courts have indicated that a variance request that's relatively minor can be justified for a variance with regard to very minor hardship. One of the things they did look into, and at this point has decided not to do, is actually tearing down the building to put up a 5-unit new building. Instead, they wanted to add this so that their in-laws, his in-laws, can live with them at that time. But it is a consideration, but financially, and they would have to go live somewhere else while it's being done. It would be a great hardship. They have 2 young children in elementary schools. So it's something that at that point they decided not to do and instead do this addition for their in-laws to live there. I think at this point, I think we're done with our presentation. With any questions, Jim?
Frank, does Mr. Sherman and his family live in the building?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
As does his father.
Okay.
And other tenants, one of them who's a friend.
So I assume the other units are rental then?
I'm sorry?
The other units are rental units, and it's not a condo building?
Oh, no, they're all rentals.
Okay.
They're all owned by him.
So 2 family members are already occupying 2 of the units?
One is the father, one is a very close friend, which they consider family.
Okay, but so I guess I'm saying the applicant and his father each have their own units along with the friend.
With others, yep.
Okay. So what is the footprint area of the existing structure? About dimensions?
Do you know them?
I don't.
I don't know them, but within the, I think I gave you the, no. Under the assessors, it indicates that the first floor, the living area and the gross area is 1,540 feet. That's the first 2 floors. Then the half story is just over 700 square feet. But I don't know what the dimensions are of.
Well, can we safely say, now that I see the plan up there again, that the addition footprint is greater than the existing building?
Not being an architect or engineer, but guessing yes.
Okay. The other question is this 17.2 foot, I'm going to call it connector between the existing structure and the addition.
Yes.
What is that?
That on the plan that you'll see, the floor plan is a walk-in pantry for the addition.
So a 17-foot long walk-in pantry. So that connector is really, seems to me, there so you can maintain it as being a single structure. Am I right?
That's the connection, yes.
Big pantry. Going to have Thanksgiving there every year.
That's his plan.
Yeah. Seems like there was something else I had. Well,
Sorry.
did you think about, we still on? Yeah. Narrowing the addition somewhat, so you don't need the variance, you know what I'm saying on that?
Yes, they've done plans actually pushing it out 5 feet more. And I met with them and discussed it with them, and I explained to them that in that case, they wouldn't need the variances. We'd still have to come in front of you. And at that point, they were like, you know what? we'll attempt the variance. If we don't get the variance, then we'll consider pushing it out 5 feet and trying to do something like that. Initially, they had the addition lined up with the side yard, approximately 15 feet off of it. And when I met them, I asked them, can you narrow it down? And what they did is they lined it up with that. And I said, can you line it up with the house more? So it lines up. So I pretty much told them, can you narrow it down more? And this is what they came back with something else. And there were issues with the pantry and one other lining up that, I worked with Bill Buckley on, and then he went back to his architect to finalize it. So this is what they eventually came back with as to, if we can get a variance, this is what we'd like. If we can't get the variance, then they'll either narrow it down or more than likely push it out to some extent. I don't know if it'll go out 5 feet or not, or if they'll, try to push it out 3 feet or something like that. But this is what they wanted to bring before this board initially to see if they would be comfortable with it. Because again, it's a minimal variance request of 5 feet, but it is, the footprint is large, as you had indicated, Dave. But again, it's a 1-floor living space, intended for his parents-in-law. And
Yeah, no, I understand. And I understand that it's just a thing these days, that single floor living, which is essentially what I do with my place. It's just very big. I'll give you the historic note. I was there at that meeting in 1989 as an alternate. And I have a problem that I'm not shown on the decision.
They're shown in the minutes, though, Dave.
Am I shown in the minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
I was a newbie. Anyhow.
Frank, I want to go to the variance criteria. What's the hardship?
well, as in with the original decision, the hardship would be with first of all, with dimensional variance, minimal, relatively minor hardship can justify it. And in this case, one of the considerations would be that they may just tear down the house and put up a brand new 5-unit in there. That has been a consideration that they've looked into, but again, wanted to go with just this addition for their in-laws.
Mm-hmm. Dave, being that you were there 30 years ago, or plus or minus, do you remember any discussion? Because there's nothing in the decision that really gets into variance criteria.
No, Bonnie, I don't.
Okay, yeah, and the minutes don't show anything either.
I think that a lot of it was, if I remember, and believe me, a lot of the concern was this discussion, is it a 2-unit, is it a 3-unit, is it a 4-unit? There was a lot of bantering about that. And of course, Frank, you gotta not get confused and think Frank was there, that was his dad, right?
His dad, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think my dad handled that one, but in looking to me, the history, maybe this will come back to you, Dave. I looked through all the files and the building and all that. And it was Mr. Sherman's father that bought it at the time. And he had bought it within a year or so from the prior owner. And the prior owner seemed to have a lot of run-ins, we'll say, with the building inspector at the time.
Yeah.
For not keeping things quite up to code, or
not doing what it is coming back a little bit, not doing what he said he was going to do,
Exactly. And then Mr. Sherman bought the apartment complex building, and giving him the benefit of the doubt, I think he thought truly it was a 3 family, bought it that way when it really wasn't. And I want to do some work and kind of got the history of it from the building inspector at the time, and was told you got to bring everything up to code. And I think the resolution of it was, all right, let's get this in front of the zoning board of appeals, make a decision, and work to get this building fixed up and cleaned up. Because when you read the site plan approval by the selectmen and the special permit from the planning board, they both go into, you have to finish painting this side of the house. You have to paint the foundation. They specified, he indicated would be red. They got into some real details. So just my interpretation, again, my father was involved in it, so I didn't have any files from him, but reading the town's files is they're trying to get this building really brought up to code for a number of different reasons. And with the approval, it became a 4-unit and it brought everything up to code. And as I understand now, everything's still up to code and kept in good condition.
Okay.
But I think there was a little give and take there to get that structure in better shape.
Okay.
Frank, is there enough room for sufficient parking? I think with 5 units, you would need, 10 spaces or 11 spaces?
Yes, there's more than enough room to put what's required. Trying to see the parking requirements we would have over, it's 2.25 per unit. With the proposed, we have 2.4 per unit. And if necessary, we could add additional ones in there. But and don't forget, one of the parking spots which is not even counted in here is the garage.
Right.
Because Bill Buckley didn't realize that was a garage, which I didn't either at first until I got the plan. So that's not counted. So again, we're probably over, at like 2.5 per unit.
Okay.
So there's plenty of space, and it's shown on that plan. And if this is approval, he's gonna have to go in front of the planning board anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I spoke with Gabby Jordan the other day, relative to, whether you would or would not have to go before the planning board if we approved it. And she also spoke with Paige about it, and they both confirmed that to be the fact.
Yes, and I've been indicating that to him from the get-go too.
Kim, Kurt, Lorraine, any questions?
Barney,
Yeah, go ahead.
so I'm just curious if there's been any response from abutters to this proposal?
I have not received any. I asked Diana earlier if she had received any. Obviously, we'll, request public comment if there is anybody on who wants to comment.
Okay.
But nothing has been received in the office so far.
Thanks, Barney.
Actually, I wanted to raise that same question with Frank and Mr. Sherman. Have you had any comments or discussions with your neighbors?
I talked to one of my neighbors on the side. Haven't ran into the other one yet, but
Okay.
They start with Mr. Lavery, which is on one side, and actually across the street, house directly across the street has been renovated into a condo complex, I believe, 2 units.
yes.
Yeah, that's the 4244 Sherman.
Yep.
And I suspect that other board members have been down Sherman Street, which is a combination of multifamily and single family. So. Kim, any questions?
Yes, I do have a couple questions. So the pass-through or the walk-in pantry, the connector, is that where a window is currently? Is that where it's going to happen? That's where it's going to be?
Yes.
Okay, and there are 2 staircases on the back. Will those remain in the same place?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Kurt, any questions?
No questions on this one, Barney, no.
Okay, Barry, anything?
No questions.
Okay, is there any member of the public who wishes to be heard? I see Andrew Ballantyne has raised his hand. Andrew, if you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Andrew Ballantyne, 51 Sherman Street. I just wanted to say that as long as there isn't any impact to on-street parking, then I'm very much in favor of this proposal.
Okay. Now, there shouldn't be any on-street parking issues because they're required to have off-street, parking. And
Yep.
as Frank indicated, they should have enough room for that.
Yep.
Have there been any problems in the past?
With other people on the street, not with this residence.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, why don't we have a motion to close the public portion?
I move we close the public portion.
Second,
Okay, Dave,
Yes. Dave Brown, yes.
Kim Ellen,
yes.
and Barney Overett, yes. Who wants to start? You want to start, Dave?
Yeah, this is difficult to get excited about. At least for me, you end up with such an odd shaped building when this is done with the attachment and everything. And I was just wondering if, well, I would see how the others feel, but if some other plans might be presented to us. That's what I have.
Okay. Kim?
So I'm struggling with this one a bit as well. I certainly understand the applicant's request and, wanting to have family close to you. I certainly can appreciate all of that. I just keep coming back to, is this substantially detrimental to the public good? We have to keep in mind if something like this, approval of this would nullify the intent of the bylaws. I'm thinking also about what Attorney Spillane said about the hardship in this is if this weren't allowed and this didn't go forward, they would contemplate, tearing it down because they really would like to have the fifth there. And I guess I'm struggling with that a little bit as well. I'm not sure. I am a work in progress.
Okay. This is sort of one of the ones that, I don't have a problem with as far as what's being proposed, but I do have a problem with it complying with the, the variance criteria. I guess I would be on the same, page as Dave. Are there other plans that might be more appropriate and that would address some of our concerns? Let me go to Kurt, Frank, before you respond, and then Lorraine. Kurt, go ahead.
I share your opinion that it's going to be a very oddly shaped and looking structure, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I understand the desire to have your family close by, and it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. So I'm on board with the concept. I'm just not sure I'm on board with the way the house currently, the proposed addition currently looks and sits on the site.
And Lorraine.
I was just wondering if there was some way that the attachment, trying to envision how this would be able to look like one continuous structure. Is there some way where they've lined up that one side to make some greater attachment that would make it look more as a single structure than as something hanging off? But does that help with any of the concerns of approving this that you have, Barney.
I mean, it certainly doesn't answer the variance issue, but I don't know whether it would answer some of the, concerns that the others have as far as aesthetics and how it would look on the lot. Lorraine, what you're essentially saying is if the pantry were not there, if the house was connected, flat.
Or even if the
Maybe.
pantry was squared off to run, like that area was to run in a line with the existing structure.
Mm-hmm.
Just would appear more uniform. But again, I think that's less of an issue than.
Yeah.
Bonnie,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I agree with what Lorraine is saying. I think if you could take that pantry and make it all the way across, now that gives you, we're not here to help you design, but it gives you a squared off look from the outside. So that's more aesthetically there. You're going to pick up some area if you don't change anything further. So, but you probably by picking up that area, 17 feet, that runway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, boy, if that was all kind of squared off, you might be able to, do a lot of different things. Just my thought.
But I think there are two sets of stairs in the back. Is when I drove behind there. So I'm not sure if those are required, egresses.
Well, I think that doesn't one set come off a deck?
Yeah.
So I think, and yeah, actually both of them come off. One comes off a porch, the other one comes off a deck.
Yeah.
So,
So you might lose, again, we're not architects or designers, but
Yeah.
you might lose the decks, but
Or just one, just
be
lose
it.
one of those staircases.
mm-hmm. Frank, do you or Mr. Sherman want to respond?
Yes, we want to take a look at that, have an architect look at it. You have to have a number of egresses from the different units. I'm not really enough with it. If the board was open to it, if we could continue it until next meeting, the board feels that if we can see if we can square off the building so it looks like one continuous building, I think would give him some time to work with his architect to see how it does. Because right now he's telling me on that, the side porch by the driveway, it comes out and you turn and go down. So you wouldn't want to come out and go right down to the driveway right away. But I don't want to play architect, just like I don't like to play engineer. So I think we'd like to have the ability to have, yes, right there. So it comes out, you come onto the porch and you turn right, and then you turn right to go down the stairs. I'd want somebody to take a look at it to see what could be done if we connect it all the way over the addition to over there. So that we have the right amount of egress. And maybe part of the addition that goes in there goes to that back unit. I'm just I'm guessing right now.
Yeah.
But if the board feels that would be, they'd be more open to approving it. If he did that, I think like his architect have some time to look at that, would be for everyone's benefit.
And the other thing too, maybe if they talk about exits, second exits, which is probably what the code says, there may be a way it could be handled via a fire escape, rather than a set of stairs. Maybe. I mean, it's got to be looked at completely.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
And I would be willing to move this for another meeting, Bonnie. Let them think about it. They heard our feedback.
Yeah, I raised the issue, a couple of minutes ago about whether the, variance criteria was satisfied. Let me just say this. I don't think so. I know that Frank thinks so, but I don't necessarily agree. But if everybody is satisfied with how the house will ultimately look, and nobody else is really concerned about variance criteria, I can get over that. So, I think maybe the best thing is to continue it and give, Mr. Sherman and his architect an opportunity to review things and come back with us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
You're right, though. It's something to think about, getting over the hurdle, because you do add another unit, which basically is, I've always told people it's not our responsibility to figure out how somebody can, make more money. Added apartment units certainly gives that value at some point, even if it's not. It's a relative now, so I'm sure rent would be not much, if anything, but. So
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, again, there's enough area on this lot for a 5-unit. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree. On a knockdown, you certainly could do 5 units, maybe even more. I don't know.
Right. And if it had been determined that it was a pre-existing 3-family, it would have been pre-existing non-conforming. So we wouldn't even be talking about a variance now, just a finding in order to do the 20 feet there. And of course, the change to the modification. But my gut feeling from reading, again, all those files is, there was litigation talked about back and forth, but to try to come to a compromise. At this time, he wants to use the land for the purpose that is available under the zoning, which is the 5 unit. But for, the 89 decision, you could use that. Again, it was something that his father agreed to, so we are bound by it with regard to the modification as well as the variance. But again, it's a minor request going from 20 going to 25 down to 20, and in this area, different houses built way back when weren't built in a particular area. It was built, they were more built for where was the easiest place for them to build it back then. And there was no side yards or no consideration for the future here. So I, as Barney has indicated, I believe we've met it. But again, we're more than willing to look into making the adjustments to the design as being requested tonight. But again, if the board never thinks we're ever going to get over that variance hump, we don't want to waste anybody's time and effort with regard to that. And then what we'll do is we'll take a consideration in there and come back with one that's 25 feet off of the side yard, see if that's available. But again, if we come more 25 feet off of that side yard, it's going to get into the driveway, because they have looked to shrink it as narrow as possible, so they can get what they want with regard to the 1 floor living space.
Yeah.
But we're more than willing to have the architect really look at it to see what the comments indicated tonight.
So let me ask the other members of the board, where do you feel, or how do you feel as far as the variance itself?
Well, as presented, I'm having a real problem getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree. And so could you just just to repeat, so you had said to get the 25 feet, if that were going to be a direction that this could go in. So what you're saying is it would be pushed an additional 5 feet away from, the numbers are very small on here. I'm having trouble reading it. Oh, that's much nicer.
Yeah.
So an additional 5 feet away from the lads, Brendan and Lindsay Ladd, is that correct?
Yes, and therefore the parking would also be pushed at least 5 feet. And maybe if they do push it out, they're gonna want to widen it. I'm sure they'll work with the architect and the engineer to see the best design. But one of the reasons they did this also was to try to keep the parking away from the other single-family residents also. So if it's pushed out 5 more feet, again, the parking will go another 5 feet towards the laveries.
Can the parking be put in the back, or is that a problem with the drain easement?
It possibly could be put in the back. I'd have to talk with the engineers about what's back there, and I don't know the topography back there and all that. I think they were trying to use what is there now without adding any more impervious surface than what's required. So again, that's an engineering question.
Yeah.
Looking at it, it possibly could go back there, and I'm sure they'll look at that.
So what you're saying is that in back of where the proposed unit is, it's either dirt or grass now. It's not concrete or asphalt.
No.
Okay.
No, you can kind of see the light line of what's there now. You see the 2 sheds, and you can see the line. That is just where the pavement is currently.
Okay.
And that's why the impervious surface doesn't jump up as significantly as you would think because of the addition. Most of the addition is going on impervious surface as it is.
Barney.
So where are we? Go ahead, Lorraine.
So if in order to meet that setback requirement, they were going to have to move all of the parking, that wouldn't be considered a hardship? Just from a cost standpoint?
I'm not sure I follow you.
So you're saying if they were to move the building in order to, I think you're saying that there isn't a hardship, right? You're not observing a hardship. It sounds like that's what everybody's saying. But the fact that they would have to, in order to meet that 25-foot requirement, would cause them to have to move all of the parking.
Well, if they met the 25-foot side yard setback requirement, they wouldn't need a variance.
Okay. Well, that's what. But in order to do that, they have to move all the parking.
They would have to move it somewhat, I would think.
Yeah.
In order, you have to have what, a 24-foot driveway, Barry?
Yes.
So if you move the house 5 feet closer towards the Lavery property, you wouldn't have, as they're showing right now, you wouldn't have a 24-foot driveway between the parking area and the house. So you would have to move the parking area.
It would all dominate.
At least 5 feet closer to the Laveries.
And so I'm just asking the question, is the fact that that creates a whole additional cost not considered a hardship?
No, again, because they wouldn't be needing a variance at that point. The hardship is one of the criteria of a variance.
Yeah.
So something relative to topography, shape, conditions, soil conditions is one criteria. Hardship is a second criteria, and then no detriment to the bylaw is the third criteria.
Okay.
So again, if he were to move the house 5 feet closer to the Lavery property, he's no longer violating the setback on the portion of the property that's next to the lads. So
I'm just-
therefore, he does not need a variance. He complies with the setback, the 25-foot setback requirement.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking of the avoidance of the cost of doing that. Does that play any factor in this?
Well,
No.
Okay.
Now, again, I would think that if Frank, I'm sorry, if Mr. Sherman were to move the house again 5 feet closer to the Laveries, again, we don't need a variance. I suspect the only reason they would be here would be to modify that first condition or to eliminate that first condition.
Possibly, and I can't remember if we would need a finding also. I would want to double check that. I mean, this board in the past has found hardship when someone can't use their property for an allowed use under the zoning. And this property has an allowed use of up to 5 units because of the area. It's just because of the location of the existing house, which was built at the latest in the 40s, if not earlier, because they have horsehair in there, which indicates that it was probably built even before that. You know, if it had been off of 25 feet, you know, we wouldn't be having to do that because we'd be lining up correctly. It's just because that it's so close to it. And again, if it was a pre-existing non-conforming structure, we wouldn't be here for a variance either. So it's a unique circumstances. You know, back in the day when an agreement was reached, they said it's a 2-family, but we'll give you the variances to go from 2 to 4. We're asking for the same variances to go from 4 to 5. Back in '89, this board determined that the variances were recognized, and now you're not recognizing it the same way. I know Dave had some issues back in the day. Their family, they've come in and looked at me, talked with me a number of times. I've talked with Bill Buckley, the engineer, to get things aligned correctly. Again, they came in here trying to see if they can get the variance. Again, if you don't think the variance is applicable, you know, you can give us that indication. We'll probably just ask that they either be withdrawn or we just continue it to be able to come back showing you another plan that's 25 feet off so that we don't need the variance and just a modification, possibly a finding at that time. It's whatever the board prefers at this time, what direction you'd like us to go. But they would like to try to be able to put an additional unit on here for his in-laws, whatever this board feels comfortable. Because again, if you don't like the way it's connected up now, if you push it out 5 more feet, it's going to be off-centered from that the initial house. They wanted to keep it on center there. Or at least that's what I advised them to at one point. If you want them to connect it up more, I think we'd like to have an opportunity to go and speak with their architect and see if we can do that for you. But again, if the board doesn't think they could ever get over the variance request, which again, I think the hardship with regard to a dimensional variance, it can be minimal. And the courts have said that, and this board has said that in the past. And I think the hardship is here. And a lot of it has to do with the old building and the old decision and the way it's there. But whatever the board thinks is best, you know, we'd like to have an opportunity to go speak with his architect, see if we can come up with something that this board would be comfortable with.
You know, I guess the one thing I'll say as far as the hardship is, you know, again, he is using the house right now, or the property right now, as a multifamily house. So we're really just talking about a unit, not the fact that he's prohibited from using it for multifamily purposes. But again, what's everybody's appetite? Dave
Oh, I'd
hasn't
like-
had dinner. Dave hasn't had dinner yet, so his appetite is.
Take a bomb.
I would, I'd like to see the plan rethought. I think I can get there, with the feedback that we've given tonight. We'll see what they can do with it.
Do you want it just connected or do you want it moved 5 feet? Or would you like to see both?
Both, Frank.
Okay.
Yeah, I have one question about, I'm trying to remember the existing parking. Is that paved or is it gravel or is it a mixture?
Paved.
It's
It is paved, okay. Just couldn't remember.
I think back in 1989, Dave, there was some issues when I read the minutes relative to people parking in the front and on the front lawn.
Yeah.
So. it
Well,
may have been
back in 89 or 88, you had selectmen show up, which is kind of unusual. So I don't remember exactly, but there certainly was more going on. Or they wouldn't have been bothered with it.
You're absolutely right, Dave. If you read the file, you can read between the lines that something else was going on. And I
Yeah,
think it was not kept up by the prior owner. And when his father bought it, he thought it was a 3, want to turn it into a 4.
yeah.
And they
shaky.
got on him to saying, bring it up. And so I think you're absolutely right.
So why don't we continue it then?
Please.
Yeah, I move, you need a motion, Bonnie?
Yeah,
I would move that we continue this hearing to allow the applicant to, gather more information based on our feedback to our next meeting,
March 18th.
or
Okay,
the
enough
meeting
time, Frank?
after, or,
I'm sorry?
well, you know what we can do? Because obviously we're not in the same room, so we can't sign a piece of paper together. Why don't I continue it why don't we continue until our April meeting? But obviously, if you can come back in March, we'll do it then.
Yeah, but you have to continue it to a date certain. If you do it to April, I can't come back in March. So why don't we do it to March?
March, okay.
And if we're not ready, we'll tell
we'll
you
just
that.
move it out further.
Okay.
And Diane, why don't you put us last in case there's other people? So if we do have to
Okay.
push it forward, you guys don't have to wait 10 minutes for the next hearing or something.
Kim, you want to second that? Okay, Dave Brown,
Yes,
Kim Ellen, and Barney over at yes. Diana, why don't you, when you get a chance, tomorrow morning, I guess, when you're back in the office, email me the continuation form.
Okay.
Okay, I'll sign it. I'll scan it. I'll send it to Frank. Frank, if you then get it back to Diana.
Absolutely. And why don't you just leave continuation date open-ended? How do you usually do it? Do you just put it forward to 1 month or?
Last time we did it, we continued it to, I think like 3 months. Why don't I continue it to the end of March?
Well, why don't we do it to the end of April, just in case we do
End of
it?
April? Okay,
Never knowing what the architect's gonna be able to do, because he has to come up with a couple different plans now.
Mhm.
So I'd like to get in if we can have it on time and get it to you well in advance too, to look at it. I won't get you anything, 2 days before. I'll try to get it to you at least a week in advance.
okay. So why don't we continue to April 30th then?
Yeah, just in case, so that if I just send you a letter saying, please continue it to April, we're good to go with that.
Okay,
So you're talking about continuing the hearing to the end of April or writing the continuance form to the end of April?
The form and we'll
Yeah.
do the hearing until March.
Okay.
Because if we can get it together, we'd like to get it in with March. And, but if we can't, we'll just continue it to April. And again, we won't send you guys this stuff the day before, 2 days. We'll try to get it to you a week in advance so you have time to look at it.
okay, great.
great.
Okay,
You want a
thank
new
you.
motion, Bonnie, or do you want to just?
Yeah, why don't you make a new motion? No, that's
So
good
I
enough.
move that we
Yeah.
continue this hearing to our next meeting and that we have Frank has agreed to sign a waiver form to the end of April.
For the decision to be
Oh, for
submitted.
the decision to be made.
Second,
Dave Brown,
Yes,
Kim Ellen,
yes.
and Barney over, yes. Anything else on this?
No, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you.
we hope to see you next month, if not April.
Great, thank you.
so now we got some general business, right, Bonnie?
Yep, minutes.
I have,
move-
Barney sent me some spelling corrections.
You don't have spell check?
They're real words, they're just not the right ones.
Well, there was a little bit more than just some spell check words. You know, I had thought about this one change and I actually had forgotten to make it. And then Barry gave me a call and I said, you know, thank you for calling because you reminded me that I neglected to make one change. At the very end of the discussion relative to the 15 Baker Street application, there was wording in there that connecting the two structures was allowed by right. And we eliminated the by right words.
All right, yeah.
Now, in relation to that, I would not be surprised if in March, Frank brings an application to connect those two for a special permit to allow the two structures to be connected.
Okay,
He's talked to me, he's talked to Barry. Diana said that Stephanie Silby stopped by the office today, or was it today, Diana, or yesterday?
I talked to her on the phone.
On the phone, okay. So I would not be surprised if we have an application from Frank for a special permit to connect the two units. And that would obviously allow for a two-family home. We got anything else?
Well, we have to approve these minutes now.
Yeah, but we haven't, anything else on the minutes?
Oh, okay.
I would move that we approve the minutes with the corrections that Bonnie made. We saw all the corrections, didn't we? We just got to approve the minutes
You just say as amended.
as
As
amended.
amended. Okay, Kim second? Okay, Dave,
Yes,
Kim? Kurt? And Lorraine?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else in Diana? We get any other applications or any other people
No.
sniffing around?
Nope. Nope, I don't think I've heard from anybody. Well, everything goes through Barry now, so you can ask him.
And anybody, Barry, talking to you or?
Nope.
Okay. So maybe we'll have one or two things next month and that might be it for a while. We'll see.
okay. I move we adjourn the meeting.
Second,
Okay, again, roll call. Dave,
Yes,
Kim,
yes.
Kurt,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, yes. So everybody take care. Hopefully we'll see you all soon again.
Enjoy your dinner, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Bye.
Mike Weber, thanks very much again.
Thank you.
All right, bye now.
Bye.
bye.